All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly fascinating document. It's a 10-minute video generation script called Caravans of the High Passes. Now, this isn't just your standard historical summary. What we have here is a meticulously crafted blueprint, specifically designed to instruct AI video tools on how to create the absolute illusion of genuine captured footage. We're talking about a Karakoram and Pamir mountain trade route right around the year 700 CE. It's like a giant puzzle, and we're going to break down exactly how this script engineers that historical realism, step by very careful step. For more than 1,000 years, this was not a wilderness. It was a road. Okay, that cold open instantly reframes our entire perspective, right? The script uses this to hook you immediately, setting the historical stakes right out of the gate. It's demanding that the creator, and ultimately us as the viewer, stop looking at these jagged, intimidating peaks as some untouched, romantic wilderness. We need to start seeing them for what they actually were: a functioning, heavily trafficked trade network. Section 1. Anatomy of a documentary. So, I really want to emphasize that this document isn't just about the history. It's a structural masterclass in building a believable illusion. It relies on incredibly strict pacing and rules to basically trick your eye and your ear into believing you're watching a real documentary crew embedded with an ancient caravan. It outlines a grueling single-day journey, but it condenses it perfectly into a 600-second runtime. It moves chronologically, right? We start with the dawn preparation, we move into the harsh reality of a midday storm, and it culminates with a dusk arrival. Grounding the viewer in that strict timeline is absolutely crucial for making the footage feel like a continuous documented reality, rather than just a bunch of disjointed clips thrown together. Section 2. Rules of Realism. To make this 600-second illusion actually work, the script features what it calls a production Bible. Basically, these are strict guardrails put in place so the generated output doesn't end up looking like a polished artificial museum diorama. The whole goal here is grit, weight, and tangible hardship. For instance, the script demands independent weather behavior. That means snow and rockfall shouldn't look perfectly choreographed or looped. It specifies a patina of hard, centuries-long use on literally every single object. Visually, it calls for deep browns and rust reds. And audibly, this is so cool. It instructs the use of sparse regional instrumentation, unsubtitled languages like Waki or Balti, and maybe most importantly, the specific, heavy silence of high altitude. The atmosphere is totally built on restraint. This restraint builds a really distinct visual identity. The script demands anatomical strain, heavy inertia, and the routine competence of the diverse groups who historically used these routes. Think Tang-era pilgrims and Tibetan traders. But at the exact same time, it strictly forbids digital smoothness, exotic Silk Road cliches, and those lone heroic explorers we're so used to seeing. The realism here is achieved precisely because it rejects those tired Hollywood tropes. Section 3. Beginning the ascent. Now we actually enter the narrative flow of the script itself, starting right in the freezing pre-dawn air. I want you to imagine the tactile reality here. Handlers are meticulously checking knots and balancing these heavy loads of silk, salt, tea bricks, and wool onto yaks and horses. The script ensures the journey doesn't start with some grand, sweeping adventure, but with routine, practiced, freezing labor. And as the caravan gets moving, we hit this striking piece of narration. The first danger isn't the height, it's the narrowness. The camera directions here are so fascinating. The script instructs the virtual camera to stay close and low. No majestic, sweeping drone shots at this stage. Instead, it really wants to emphasize the terrifying claustrophobic exposure of a loaded animal trying to navigate a cliffside track with a roaring river far, far below. From there, the caravan has to negotiate escalating physical obstacles. First, there's the cliffside gorge we just talked about. Second, the rope bridge. And here, the script directs this amazing micro-narrative of extreme caution, showing handlers manually testing the tension of these ancient rope and plank bridges before leading the animals across one by one. And third, stepping onto a glacier tongue, where a guide literally has to physically test the snow depth with a pole. The tension is built through patience and physical caution. It is never about manufactured action sequences. Then, in Scene 6, the script introduces the concept of cairns. These are weathered stone markers used to trace a route where absolutely no maps existed, and they were maintained by centuries of travelers, just adding stones as they passed. The script includes this very quiet, deliberate moment where a guide adds a single stone to a cairn. It's such a brilliant historical detail, right? It visually represents the collective memory and the shared survival of the road itself. Section 4. Surviving the Past. As the caravan crosses the tree line, we hit the true climax of the journey. The script notes that up here, the road stops being a simple path and pretty much transforms into a direct negotiation with the mountain itself. The altitude and the wind visibly slow everyone's pace down to a crawl. So, I want to pause and ask you directly, based on everything we've covered so far about this incredibly harsh environment, how do you think ancient caravans actually survived sudden whiteout blizzards? Because right at this exact moment, the script engineers a physically plausible storm that forces the caravan to a dead stop, presenting a massive life-or-death challenge in an environment with very little oxygen. And here is the script's answer to that question. Patience, not courage. This is a profound shift in dramatic tension. The script actively turns away from the heroic action we've been conditioned to expect and instead focuses entirely on the quiet, desperate, and incredibly practical act of simply waiting the storm out. Cinematically speaking, this waiting sequence is incredibly detailed. The animals are turned tail to wind on pure survival instinct. The humans are huddled tightly behind packs. Small fires are fed incredibly carefully in that thin mountain air. And brilliantly, the sparse musical score drops away completely, leaving only the immersive sound design of a howling wind and murmured conversation. As a viewer, you are meant to feel the cold, the isolation, and that agonizing wait. Section 5. Arrival and Legacy. Eventually, the storm clears. The caravan crosses the highest point of the pass, which is marked by trail shrines and prayer flags, and they begin the much-needed descent. The script notes that coming down is when the body remembers it was never built for that altitude in the first place. The pace quickens and the camera captures a palpable, collective physical relief as vegetation finally reappears and they head toward green ground. By the time they reach the Dusk Trade Settlement, we see the economic lifeblood of the era finally unburdened. Silk, salt, tea, and wool. And we see the human engine that moved it all. Karakoram guides, Central Asian merchants, and pilgrims. The script emphasizes this quiet reunion energy and warm firelight at the trade post. There's no grand fanfare, just the profound, exhausted relief of unburdening the animals and surviving another crossing. We end on this incredibly powerful quote from the script's epilogue. Silk, salt, tea, and prayer all cross this same stone. I think this perfectly encapsulates the core message of the source material. It forces us to reconsider history, not as a series of grand, sweeping empires, but as the quiet, grueling competence of the everyday people who literally carried the world on their backs. So I'll leave you with this to think about. How many other forgotten roads and unsung caravans built the interconnected world we live in today, just waiting to be remembered? Thanks for exploring this with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.